Most people believe saving a baby bird is simple. Pick it up, take it somewhere safe, feed it, keep it warm. Sounds like the kind thing to do. But every year, thousands of healthy baby birds are accidentally taken away from the parents that were still searching for them. Not because people wanted to hurt them, but because nobody ever taught them what to do first. So before you make the same mistake, let us walk through the first 10 minutes together. Because sometimes, saving a baby bird begins by doing something you never expected. The moment you find a baby bird on the ground, your heart makes the decision before your mind ever has a chance. You see something small, something helpless, something that looks like it cannot possibly survive on its own. Almost without thinking, your hands begin reaching toward it. After all, that is what compassion tells us to do. If a baby needs help, you help it. But this is exactly where almost every well-meaning person makes the same mistake. Wildlife rehabilitators often say that the first minute after finding a baby bird is not the time to act. It is the time to observe. Those first 60 seconds can tell you almost everything you need to know. Before touching the bird, stop. Take one slow step back. Look around carefully. Is the bird covered with feathers, or is it mostly bare? Does it hop when you move closer? Can it flutter its wings? Is it calling? Do you hear adult birds nearby? Most importantly, look above you. Is there a nest in the tree? Many people become so focused on the baby bird that they never look up. Yet the answer they are searching for is often right over their heads. During these first 60 seconds, you are not doing nothing. You are gathering information. You are giving yourself the chance to understand the situation before changing it forever. Because the moment you pick up that bird, there is no way to undo that first decision. Maybe you have just saved a life. Or maybe you have unknowingly separated a healthy baby from parents that were only waiting for you to walk away. That is why experienced wildlife rehabilitators call these first moments the golden 60 seconds. Not because every second is filled with action, but because every second is filled with observation. Most people believe every small bird they find on the ground is a baby that has fallen from its nest. It seems like an obvious conclusion. If it cannot fly well, it must need help. But this is where the story takes an unexpected turn. Not every young bird on the ground is in danger. In fact, many of them are exactly where nature expects them to be. Wildlife experts separate young birds into two very different stages. The first is called a nestling. A nestling has very few feathers, or sometimes almost none at all. It cannot hop very well, it cannot balance properly, and it depends completely on its parents. If you find a nestling on the ground, there is a good chance it truly needs help because it has probably fallen from the nest before it was ready. The second stage is called a fledgling. A fledgling looks completely different. Its body is mostly covered with feathers, can stand, can hop, can flap its wings. It may even make short, clumsy flights before landing on the ground again. To most people, a fledgling looks injured, but this awkward stage is one of the most important parts of a bird's life. It is learning. Every small jump strengthens its wings. Every short flight builds confidence. Every day on the ground prepares it for a lifetime in the sky. The most surprising part is that its parents are often much closer than you think. They may be watching quietly from a nearby tree. They continue feeding the young bird every few minutes while encouraging it to explore farther from the nest. Because they know something we often forget. A bird cannot learn to fly if it never leaves the nest. This is why thousands of healthy fledglings are accidentally rescued every year. Not because people do not care, but because they care so much that they mistake a normal stage of growing up for an emergency. But even if the bird really needs help, another mistake is even more dangerous. The moment people decide to rescue a baby bird, they usually make one of three mistakes. Each one comes from kindness, and each one can unintentionally place the bird in even greater danger. The first mistake is giving the bird water. It sounds harmless. After all, every living creature needs water. But a frightened baby bird is often too weak or too stressed to drink safely. If water enters the wrong passage instead of the stomach, it can flow into the lungs, making the situation far worse. The second mistake is trying to feed the bird immediately. Bread, milk, rice, seeds. People often offer whatever food happens to be nearby. The problem is that baby birds do not all eat the same diet. Some need insects. Others need partially digested food from their parents. Some require a very specific balance of nutrients during the first weeks of life. The wrong food can cause serious harm long before hunger ever would. Then comes the third mistake, taking the bird inside the house immediately. To us, a warm home feels safe. To a wild baby bird, everything suddenly becomes unfamiliar. The voices, the smells, the lights, the movement. Its parents disappear. Its surroundings disappear. Everything it has ever known disappears within a matter of seconds. That sudden change creates enormous stress. Wildlife rehabilitators often explain that shock is one of the greatest dangers for young birds. An already frightened bird now has to cope with fear, confusion, and unfamiliar surroundings all at once. Sometimes the greatest act of kindness is not doing more. It is avoiding the mistakes that seem helpful but quietly make the situation worse. Then comes the decision almost nobody gets right. And what you discover during that single minute often determines everything that happens next. Because what you are about to see next changes everything. There is one rescue that takes less than a minute. Yet surprisingly, it is the one rescue most people never even consider. If the bird you found is a true nestling, and you can safely locate its nest, the best thing you can often do is place it back where it belongs. Many people hesitate because they have heard the same warning their entire lives. If you touch a baby bird, its parents will reject it. It sounds believable. But for most songbirds, it simply is not true. Birds rely much more on sight and sound than on smell. Wildlife experts have repeatedly confirmed that parent birds usually do not abandon their young because a human briefly touched them. If the nest is still intact and it is safe to reach, gently place the nestling back inside. Then step away. If the original nest has fallen or cannot be reached, there is another option that many people never know about. You can create a temporary nest using a small container with drainage holes, lined with dry grass or paper towels, and securely attach it to the same tree or a nearby branch. Then comes the hardest part of the rescue. Walk away. Not because the bird no longer needs you, because it now needs its parents more than anyone else. From a distance, quietly watch for a while. Parent birds almost always return when they believe the area is safe again. To them, this is simply another day of raising their young. To us, it feels like watching a miracle unfold. Many people spend years believing they rescued a baby bird, when in reality the greatest rescue was giving its family the chance to be together again. It is one of those moments that completely changes the way you understand nature. You realize that helping does not always mean taking over. Sometimes it means knowing exactly when to step back. But what if there is no nest and no parents? Sometimes, despite your patience and careful observation, it becomes clear that the baby bird truly needs human help. This is the moment when doing nothing is no longer the right choice. The challenge is knowing how to recognize a real emergency. Look carefully at the bird. Is there visible bleeding? Does one wing hang much lower than the other? Is it unable to stand or balance? Does it drag a leg when it tries to move? These are all signs that the bird may have suffered a serious injury. Another major warning sign is evidence of a cat attack. Even if you cannot see a wound, a bird that has been caught in a cat's mouth needs professional care as quickly as possible. Bacteria in a cat's saliva can cause life-threatening infections within a very short time. A cold body is another cause for concern. Healthy baby birds should feel warm. If the bird feels unusually cold and weak, it may no longer be able to regulate its body temperature, making immediate help essential. Then there is the question of the parents. If you have watched quietly from a safe distance for a long time and there is absolutely no sign of adult birds returning, especially if the bird is a featherless nestling, the situation may have changed from normal to urgent. At this point, intervention is no longer interrupting nature. It is giving the bird a chance it may not otherwise have. The goal is not to replace its parents. The goal is to keep it alive until trained wildlife rehabilitators can provide the specialized care it needs. Making that decision is never easy, but knowing when to step in can be just as important as knowing when to step back. But even now, the rescue is only beginning. The first hour after rescuing a baby bird is often the quietest part of the entire journey. There is no dramatic moment, no sudden miracle, just a frightened little bird that has already been through more than most people realize. At this stage, your job is not to become its parent. Your job is simply to keep it safe. The best place for an injured baby bird is a small cardboard box with a few air holes. Line the bottom with a soft towel or clean cloth so the bird can rest comfortably without slipping. Place the box somewhere warm, quiet, and away from children, pets, loud voices, and bright lights. Darkness is surprisingly important. When the box is covered loosely with a towel, many birds become much calmer because the darkness helps reduce stress. Instead of struggling to escape, they begin conserving the energy their bodies desperately need. One mistake many people make is checking on the bird every few minutes. Although it comes from concern, constant handling only increases fear. Every time the bird is picked up, its heart begins racing again. Its body releases stress hormones. Its chance to recover becomes smaller. Sometimes the greatest kindness is simply allowing the bird to rest without interruption. As soon as possible, contact a licensed wildlife rehabilitator. These professionals understand the specialized diets, medical care, and rehabilitation techniques that young wild birds require before they can safely return to nature. Your role is not to raise the bird. Your role is to protect it until the people with the right experience can take over. And the final lesson is the one most people never forget. When this story began, your first instinct was probably the same instinct almost everyone has. Pick the bird up. Take it home. Save its life. Now, after everything you have learned, that moment looks completely different. The first question is no longer, how quickly can I rescue this bird? The first question becomes, what does this bird actually need right now? Sometimes the answer is immediate help. Sometimes it is returning a tiny nestling to its family. Sometimes it is quietly stepping back and allowing a healthy fledgling to continue learning how to fly while its parents watch from nearby. Nature has spent millions of years teaching birds how to raise their young. Most of the time, the parents already know exactly what to do. They simply need the opportunity to do it. Perhaps that is the greatest lesson a baby bird can teach us. Compassion is not measured by how quickly we act. It is measured by whether our actions truly help. Sometimes the greatest rescue is not taking a baby bird away from nature. It is giving nature the chance to finish the story it had already begun. The next time you find a baby bird lying quietly on the ground, remember that those first 10 minutes are not about acting as quickly as possible. They are about making the right decision. Take a moment to observe. Look for the nest. Watch for the parents. Understand the situation before changing it. That single pause could mean the difference between separating a healthy baby from its family and giving it the best possible chance to grow into a healthy adult bird. The next time you find a baby bird, do not ask yourself, how can I save it? Instead, ask a different question. What does this bird actually need from me right now? That one simple question could completely change its future. And perhaps it will change the way you see the natural world as well. Have you ever found a baby bird before? What did you do? Share your experience in the comments. Your story might help someone else make the right decision the next time they find themselves holding a tiny life in their hands.